Jonathan Kaminga will not be going anywhere. Sign and trades have been shut down, and the expectation is that he will be a Warrior this upcoming season. With that being said, what are the most important skill sets for the Warriors to obtain? We're talking about that on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Word, everyone. Welcome into Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This show streams on YouTube Monday through Friday. You can check us out wherever you get your audio podcasts. We have on a slew of interesting and entertaining, we hope, guests. And today, Mike Loginoff joins me. You can hear him from time to time on KNBR, former college basketball player, played his high school ball at St. Ignatius in the city, grew up in San Mateo. My name, Chuck Walter. You recently heard me on 95.7 The Game. Not that recently at this point, 2 years ago, but I'm the host of the show. I cover the team on radio for 95.7, cover the team and their title run on TV for CBS News Bay Area. Itinerary, we'll get into a little bit of Jonathan Kaminga talk. At this point, everyone knows the nuts and bolts, but we'll give you the most recent news that has come out that the Warriors will not be trading Jonathan Kaminga. Do we actually believe this? We'll give our answers. Buddy Hield and Moses Moody, big points of emphasis to why this trade did not go down with the Sacramento Kings, because financial reasons, they would have had to given up one of those two. Let's say in a hypothetical world, one of those two had to have gone. Which one would myself and Mike have felt better about getting rid of? Skill sets needed this upcoming season. Is rim protection one of them? We're debating all these things on Locked On Warriors. Mike, how are we doing, my friend?
Chuck, we're back, baby. We're back. You know, little sandwich on a Friday and a Monday for the fans of the pod out there.
Offseason does not sleep. We get a little taste of some Malik Monk action. We get a little chance to noodle in our minds. Would we do this trade? And by the time we get some of the everydayers that listen to the show on board with the potential trade, it gets completely nixed, and it sounds like nothing is going to happen, whether the Kings unprotect the pick or not. Maybe if they threw in Devin Carter's a little sweetener, we could get talking again. But no, the most recent report from Tim Kawakami is that his sources within the Golden State Warriors staff basically tell him that the Warriors will not be trading Jonathan Kaminga. Joe Lacob does not like the prospects of trading him for anything less than a great return. They're going to bring him back this upcoming season. There's one of two ways that can happen. The offer that the Warriors have put on the table, and the other one being the qualifying offer. So my question is to you, do we actually think this is the end of Kaminga gets traded this summer, or do you think that this picks back up in like 2 days and the Kings have now offered Keon Ellis as a sweetener?
It's a tough one, Chuck. It's a tough one. The one thing that one reason why I would say the trade talks are totally done is because Lacob had the comments that Tim noted in his most recent article. It's no secret that Lacob's a big JK guy. That's been well documented, and everyone in the Bay Area knows it and elsewhere. But when TK brings up the fact that, you know, he's doesn't want to give up what he deems is not fair value for JK, that could really stall talks. And it's something that we talked about as well, of the ownership being heavy-handed on the front office. So there's that. Equally, like we talked about on Friday, I think it very well could be gamesmanship, because how many times in the NBA have we heard, oh, we're not going to do this, and then something happens and it changes, right? A la Jimmy Butler, right? When he said, no, I don't want to play for the Warriors. I don't want to do it. You put the money in front of him, and now he says, oh, I love it. I feel like I'm wanted here. It feels good. I got my joy back and whatnot. So it's very well could be the case that they're saying this, trying to get the Kings to up their offer to an unprotected and to try and get a little bit more value, because as I'm sure you listened to the Plus Minus pod with Marcus and Tim, I think there's a bit of the stockpiling of assets, which also makes sense. I mean, you're going to be giving away a good asset in JK. You want to get something back, but I don't know how much better you're going to get than Malik Monk and an unprotected first-round pick. And equally, for a team like Sacramento, if they are really as interested in JK as they say they are, it makes sense to probably make a move for him now rather than in a sign and trade environment when you know that you get him locked in for a few years, rather than the terrible outcome for both the Warriors and Jonathan, the situation of the qualifying offer, that's $7.9 million, because then for the Kings, there's no guarantee that JK is going to sign with them in the next offseason, right? So I think the best option really is the Monk and the unprotected first. But it'll be interesting. I don't think that this situation is tenable between the Warriors, the coaching staff, the players, and it's really just probably leaving a very sour taste in the mouths of a lot of the veterans in the locker room, I would imagine.
If this trade was straight up Jonathan Kaminga for Malik Monk in a first, I think it probably would have happened. But it required, for financial reasons, you would have to get rid of Moses Moody or Buddy Hield in a deal, whether you bring in another team or whether you're giving them to Sacramento, and Sacramento probably doesn't want Buddy Hield. Like, there are some wrinkles in there that probably haven't been told in this whole saga that would need to get done. But from all the reports we've heard, it was kind of Buddy and Moses, and then the combination of that with the lottery protected first round pick that made the Warriors kind of say, we're good, shutting everything down. Now, if the Kings did throw in a Keegan Murray, and not even throw in, if they just went Keegan Murray, or if Keon Ellis came in as a sweetener, or maybe they threw in Devin Carter as well, and the first round pick and Monk, maybe things change. Who knows? My question to you is, how the hell is this thing going to be tenable this upcoming season? Because last we've heard, Jonathan Kaminga has been, and last we've seen, he's been nowhere near the facilities this summer. The point of emphasis that Steve Kerr made in his last public interview, I believe, although I think he's on 95.7 like every week, but one of the public interviews that I heard this offseason, he was talking about how JK was going to be around the facility pretty significantly this summer, which he has not done in the past. And that's completely shot, it seems like. And in order for this situation to become rectified and for these two to lock arms and make amends, they have to see each other, right? And you wonder what that's like behind the scenes, if there's any sort of talking, if it's completely ghosted. We don't know, and there've really been no reports from even the closest within the Warriors organization, reporter-wise, that there have been any forms of communication between the two sides.
Yeah, I mean, and even just thinking about, what's been offered to JK, right? Between the Suns and the Kings and the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors have offered him the most money, I believe. I think that's
Let's
correct.
jump in and let's say they say 2 years, $25 million a year. So let's just say they go 2 years, $50 million. The Warriors offer that, and they keep in the no trade clause. They turn the team option into just no options at all. It's just 2-year deal straight up. Or they leave it both in there. You think JK would accept a deal, or is it more about just he doesn't want to be with the Warriors and wants to control his own future?
I mean, it seems like he just doesn't want to be with the Warriors now. I mean, that's even from the standpoint of, I guess, in Tim Kawakami's article, right, talking about that compromise where he said, oh, well, maybe the way that they can get over the hump here is by giving him a little bit more guaranteed money, which he wants, which is fair, right? I mean, he's a good player. He should be getting paid. But when he talks about the compromise of saying, okay, maybe if they guarantee him in the second year, but if they do that, then will Jonathan waive his no trade clause? And it doesn't seem like there's been any interest in waiving that no trade clause because of the fact that he wants to dictate where he wants to end up. And so it's just, I don't really see a way that this gets taken care of in a clean manner. I mean, this could drag out until October 1st is when they have to sign it, and they could extend it a little bit longer if they want.
Theoretically, yeah.
And I think despite the fact that in that article by TK, you're seeing some commentary about, oh, the front office isn't in a rush. Dunleavy is not in a rush. I imagine that's not going to be the status quo for much longer, because the situation needs to be rectified and needs to be addressed before you can fill out the rest of the roster with Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton and the like. GP2 even potentially, right? So I don't think that you can rest on your laurels and say, oh, we have time, and oh, we're not in a rush, when you have, 9, 10 players under contract right now. I mean, it's getting to the point where you're the only team in the NBA who hasn't made a single move except for losing a center in Looney. And you have to do something sooner rather than later. I think this is probably going to get done before September, I would hope.
You would think so. What are the skill sets the Golden State Warriors need this upcoming season that they don't have on the team right now? The Buddy Hield and Moses Moody debate about the hypothetical, which player should have been traded were this deal to go down with the Kings. It kind of peels back the layers of what the Warriors truly need. We're going to rank an order between rim protectors, shooters, and point of attack defenders. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and to stay energized. Golf for me, 13 holes would be perfect. After 9, you want a few more just to see if maybe you can beat your score on the back 9. And then 3 holes in, at least for me, it's going bad. I'm spending more time in the sand than David Hasselhoff. I'm needing a canoe to get some of my water, the ball out of the water. It's just, it's a tough day on the course for me typically. And 5 Hour Energy helps keep me alert. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code, LockedOnGolf, to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order Transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
All right, so the reports are out, and we've kind of known this for a minute now, that the reason, maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons the Golden State Warriors balked at the Sacramento Kings offer and did not make any sort of a trade for Malik Monk has to do with the fact that it's the 2-for-1 special. Sure, you're bringing in a draft pick, but you're getting rid of Jonathan Kaminga, and then to make salaries work, it would have been either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody involved in that deal. And maybe you bring in another team and you bring in a cheaper player than Buddy, a $4.5 million guy, whatever, and you still bring in the same amount of players. But that was kind of the sticking point on why the Warriors did not do it, which makes me wonder, in a hypothetical world, the Warriors do this deal. You're in the chair, Mike, making the decisions, pulling the lever. Buddy Hield and his shooting, Moses Moody and his long arms, his point of attack defense, his ability to pick up the best player on the other team at half court, and I guess maybe a little upside, whereas Buddy, you kind of know what you have at this point. The experience has been a tale that many teams have seen around the league for a long time. The Buddy Hield experience is real.
I think you move Moody because you can replace him a little bit more quick and expeditious fashion. Because who would I replace Moody with, Chuck?
You do Amir Coffey. You've talked about this many times, but what if there's no way to get Amir Coffey? Then what other long-armed point of attack pickup defenders, aside from Melton, who's obviously all but a Warrior at this point, are available to pick up? You need wings at this point. You need positional size. That was a big emphasis this offseason, positional size. And if your offseason is D'Anthony Melton, Seth Curry, and then Al Horford, who I guess you can consider an undersized center, that's not necessarily getting bigger.
No, it's fair. You're not necessarily getting bigger, but I think that with Buddy's ability to shoot the 3 ball, and we saw more consistent output from him, and we also saw similar inconsistency, frankly, with Moses. Moses he's a little bit more of a jack of all trades, but Buddy is an elite 3-point shooter, right? I mean, he's been one of the best in the past 5 years in the NBA. We talked about that recently as well. And I think that you can find another jack of all trades wing with the players that are available right now, because if someone wanted Amir Coffey, they would have gotten him already, and he's still out there and he's still available. So I think you could slot Amir Coffey into Moses's role and have another reliable 3-and-D guy that probably has a little bit more athletic burst and speed on the perimeter. And I think it would be more challenging to replace a Buddy with a Seth Curry, for example. I mean, Buddy's a better shooter than Seth and is a larger person than Steph. So I wouldn't say that Buddy brings you positional size by any means, but he brings you more positional size than younger brother Seth in this situation.
Brings you vibes as well. The good vibes only when it's rolling, right? It gets a little ugly when things aren't going well. But Jimmy Butler made Buddy Hield extremely likable, and his play, frankly, he did it for himself. But by the end of the season, right, that tandem was fun. You remember his presser at the end of the season.
Oh,
He said,
great.
I'd never had so much fun. I hope I'm back in the Bay Area. Like, this is the most. I didn't want the season to end, and I think fans really gravitated towards him. But there had to have been a point at some stage in the season where you said, just get this guy off the court for a minute, please.
Yeah, just don't dribble the ball. Like, Buddy's not allowed to dribble. I mean, I was saying this back in, what was it, November or December, Chuck, when they were playing at Houston, and they were up by like 37 points at one point, and then it just became like a dogfight,
Overtime.
Yeah, and Buddy was trying to dribble the ball multiple times, and I think one time he dribbled it off his knee on the right side of the screen, and then like at top of the key, he also lost it. Pods ended up diving on it. It's like we went through the Buddy Hield experience, but also I think part of the reason why Buddy was more consistent with his production after we got Jimmy, it's the same thing that we've talked about from the standpoint of slotting people down into their appropriate roles. If you have Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, and you have reliable hands with the ball that can just swing it to Buddy when he's open in space, or create for Buddy so he can find that space, that makes him a lot more effective. And I think that's part of the reason why we didn't need him to necessarily go out and produce and have, put up the 20 points that he did. And, every time he did it, for the most part, except for once or twice, the Warriors won the game.
Yeah, just give him some Klay Thompson tape from back in the day and just be like, see how effective you can be without dribbling.
Correct. Exactly. Just don't dribble the ball. Just keep moving in space and knocking down that open shot.
All right. So skill sets needed, man. It sounds like the Warriors, for you at least, you would value the shooting and the spacing that Buddy Hield provides as compared to the point of attack defense. Where does rim protection come in on that list? If you're talking shooting one or shooting above point of attack defense, where's rim protection? Is that 3? Is that right in the middle?
So if we're ranking those 3, right?
Yeah.
Shooting, POA, and rim protection. Look, I would say based on the needs of the roster right now, and it might sound incredibly counterintuitive, I would probably say that rim protection is at the bottom of that list. I think you need shooting and more point of attack. The Warriors last year were still, one of the best defenses in the NBA. That's really what they hung their hat on.
Which is crazy. How do they do it in the interior with such a small roster consistently?
It's because of the guy that people say that we should trade, year and year over again. Oh, get rid of Draymond Green, get rid of Draymond Green, get rid of Draymond Green. Yeah, get rid of the guy who was number 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting and was first team all defense. That's a great guy to get rid of. It's ridiculous when people say that. I mean, if you really think about it, we could do this some other time, Chuck, just for fun. I don't want to do it off the cuff. I want to kind of give it some thought. But would you say Draymond is still a top 10 big man in the NBA?
I mean, statistically speaking.
I mean, from the standpoint of impact, I'm just saying something to think about, right? Because there's the ones in the world that you wrote, Giannis, Anthony Davis, etc. All these.
It's just a switchability that's huge. But I mean, the proof has to be in the pudding at some point. The Warriors did not have bigs last year that were outstanding in the. I mean, Looney was statistically, like, I think he was top 15 in the NBA, statistically speaking, in guarding the rim. But post, nothing outstanding.
No,
TJD barely even played. So, like, at some point, unless Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski are just the scrappiest defenders of all time in the paint, and Jimmy's doing work down there, like, you got to point a finger to Draymond doing something right.
Yeah, and it's that, and it's effort. It's the effort on the rotations that we talk about, right? Like Pods, is he a plus athlete in the NBA? No, he's not like, at all. But what does he do? It's effort. He's rotating effectively on defense. He's making the secondary rotations. He's communicating, and when they play team defense, the Warriors can. That's why they're one of the best teams in the NBA on that side of the game. And so with Draymond specifically too, it's his timing and his length that enables him to be able to protect the rim effectively. And then also with Jimmy's headiness on that side of the ball too. I mean, I think given that combination, then assuming, Al Horford's coming as well, who will help, because Al Horford still, I mean, I've grinded on some Al Horford tape, and his ability to actually switch out on the perimeter still at this
It's
day and age.
impressive, isn't it? Like
It's
he's
really
switching on
impressive.
Hero and videos,
Yeah.
Garland. Like he's giving
he's moving.
some quick guards and forwards fits.
And then, I mean, that's the thing though, too, right? If you have Al Horford there, who's just going to be there to play the 5 and to match up with the other big man, and then you have Draymond and Jimmy kind of playing a little bit of free safety and blowing up plays, I think you're going to be okay at the rim with those three kind of on the back line as your forwards and center. And then the point of attack, you're going to need someone, especially if you're losing athleticism with JK and Moody in this situation, based on what we've talked about in the show. If JK and Moody are out, point of attack is going to be really important as well. But I think you can fill that with the Meltons of the world, potentially bringing back GP2 on a team friendly, potentially picking up an Amir Coffey to fill in for Moody, right? You can kind of build that depth there and have some good point of attack defenders. And then I think what remains is shooting. You got to have someone that can space the floor and that can enable you to play Jimmy and Draymond at the same time, right? Because, I mean, I think it's hilarious. Jimmy, the threes that we saw him make last season were the ones like at the end of the shot clock, having to turn around and shoot with his left hand like Kobe out of the corner, and then he's knocking it down.
He's got late clock stones, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, he does. So that's how I would do it. I would do shooting, point of attack, and then rim protection.
It's pretty nice though that the Warriors have options. If Horford comes to fruition, that they have options next year in the pick and pop of 2 upward 7. I mean, Quentin Post, legit 7 foot. Al Horford, 6'9", 6'10", but 2 bigs that can legit stretch the floor. Steve really hasn't had that in his arsenal at the same time to go to, where it's like one guy's off the floor, you can bring in the other, and you can always have a big on at any time. Then the question would be, would they go to Draymond at the 5 down the stretch consistently, or could Al be in closing lineups?
I mean, I think Al would probably be in your closing lineup, right? I think that's something that you would expect unless the Warriors wanted to go real small ball, right? But I would imagine that Al Horford's in that closing lineup. And equally, too, what that enables you to do with having Al is a reliable veteran presence at the big man position who's going to help Draymond stay healthy throughout the regular season, because the one thing that affects Draymond over the course of an NBA season when he has to play big man all the time is the fact that he is undersized. That's why his back has given him problems as he's gotten older. And so if you have Al who can eat up some more of those regular season minutes and it's not as taxing on his body, and then you can sprinkle in a little bit of QP and TJD, I think you got a big man rotation there that is serviceable for an 82-game regular season. And then when you get to the postseason, assuming that they will, because they had a fantastic record, and once they had Jimmy, I think it was 22-6, right? So assuming they're able to replicate some of that success and the team stays relatively healthy, then you have the optionality of going small ball with Draymond and slotting Jimmy in at the 4 and filling in some people around the edges, or you ride out with Al, which is also a good option.
Let's stick with the big man talk. The reason that I liked Malik Monk, among many reasons, had to do with the bigs. And we'll get into that coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO that gives you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Surprising things you'll notice, insights when using Monarch Money, is how much you're spending in a specific category like takeout, food, subscriptions and delivery services, or television subscriptions. Those things add up. Find out what you're spending your money on. Also, sometimes you'll find out that you're spending money on some service that you don't even use anymore, or some streaming service you don't use, and Monarch Money will point it out so you can look at your spending and not be surprised how fast it adds up. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. One of the things I wanted to talk about with this whole Malik Monk trade that at this point looks like it's not going to happen, but let's say in a hypothetical world, it would have. And a couple questions that got brought up about Monk were defensively. Obviously, we've talked about that, but we've also brought up that Draymond and Jimmy could hide some things on the defensive side of the ball to where Monk is a competitor. He's an athlete. He plays hard, and you're at least going to get that every single day. You're going to get a guy with a chip. Another thing that I really liked about Malik Monk's game is in the pick and roll and in the pick and pop specifically. He's so good with a big man that could shoot it. He was so good with Sabonis in finding Sabonis open looks at the top of the key, or using Sabonis as a distraction to use that snake dribble that I keep talking about with him because he's so damn good at it, to pretty much do whatever he wants from the mid-range or get to the basket and use his athleticism off the bounce when he gets downhill. And with the Warriors, whether, Al Horford's in the starting lineup, whether Quentin Post is in the starting lineup, whether neither in the starting lineup, he'd have options to pretty much be on the floor with a big that could stretch it at all times. And we saw it work in Sacramento. Maybe it could work in the Bay Area as well. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have pointed to is that he would be Dennis Schroeder 2.0, that their skill sets in the pick and roll were kind of similar to a certain degree. I disagree. I think Malik Monk is just 1,000% more dynamic than Dennis Schroeder. I think he's a better shooter than Dennis, whether the numbers last year said that or not. And I just think he would have worked out better. I think it's hard to just point to a prototype like a Schroeder and say, well, he didn't work, so there's no way that Malik could work, because they have some similarities. But that's the gamble you always take when you bring someone else in, because I don't think the Warriors' plan necessarily was to flip Schroeder at the deadline. I know it was an option and they did it, but I do think when they brought him in, that they probably thought there was some chance it could work out.
100%. The hope with Schroeder was that you'd have someone else that can handle the ball, that can score in a late clock situation, that can help relieve Steph of some of those ball handling duties and just general offensive creation. I think the difference between, kind of working our way from the back of what you're talking about to the front point of the Sabonis there, Chuck, is I think Schroeder and Malik are different from the standpoint of, and I don't think this is pedantic here, but Schroeder's a point guard, needs the ball in his hands a little bit more, and Malik Monk is a shooting guard, right? He's a secondary ball handler and can create for others and does it at a very high rate. But equally, I don't necessarily think of, when I think of Malik Monk, I think of someone attacking with purpose, not necessarily meandering with the ball and pounding the dribble and pounding, just sitting there and pounding it in one spot, waiting for an opportunity. Dennis is a little bit more of a ball stopper, I would say. I think Malik probably is a better catch and shoot option than Dennis as well. And also, too, thinking about that pick and roll action, I think it would be helpful to have someone in the late clock situation that can do that. And on the spacing standpoint, specifically looking at Sabonis, comparing him to potentially Horford or QP, Sabonis actually, I think over the course of last season, really wasn't shooting the ball that well from deep, from actual 3-point land. Top of the key and, that long range too, he was knocking it down. But if you think about someone like an Al or like a QP who can really stretch the floor out to that 3-point line, that's going to create more opportunity for that snake dribble and more opportunity for Malik Monk to get downhill. And it would just be a dynamic that the Warriors right now, they don't have enough of, in my opinion. And frankly, too, if JK comes back and he's just going to sit because it's an untenable situation, then it would be nice to have someone that's out there that can do something.
Yeah, it's clear that the hope is somehow, some way, all will be well with JK, and he's going to be motivated to make some money. Because let's not forget that if his starting basis to, up his contract next season is $7.9 million. It's a little different than if he signed the deal that was what? I think it's 21 and a half his first year, and then he'd be making 23 and a half his second season with the Warriors. So 21 and a half, and you have that team option to where he can be extended. Like, he's going to make a significantly more amount of money than he would if he takes the qualifying offer. So you would think that whether he's bluffing or not, at some point, senses are going to be come to, and he's going to at least settle with the Warriors. Maybe one of the things he's asking for, whether it's more money, whether it's putting the trade clause back in there, whether it's whatever, something is decided upon, or the Warriors really strong arm him and say, hey, you take that qualifying offer. We dare you, because that's what it feels like they're doing, daring him to take it. And if he was going to take it, there's a chance he would have taken it already, right? Like, what's the holdup to a certain degree? So that's one of the things I look at with JK in terms of him having things to play for, millions of things to play for, really, millions of dollars to play for, to where maybe the Warriors, it's not maybe, he's their best asset going forward at the deadline or in January, where they can trade him were he to be still on this team, signing this Warriors deal that they have floated out. They could make the Malik Monk trade at that point and not have to give up a Moses Moody or Buddy Hield. They could do the exact same deal, and maybe return someone else from the Kings as well, because they have a little financial flexibility there where Kaminga would be making more than Malik Monk. So that's your best course of action moving forward if it is tenable. The question is, can it be? I mean, we've seen players that are unhappy. I mean, Ben Simmons, we don't want to be in a Ben Simmons situation to where, I mean, you've seen the videos, I'm sure, of George Niang, right? Where he's like, I just hated that dude. He was around the facility and didn't want to play and was just a stain, to where whenever I see Ben Simmons on the court, I make sure that we kick his ass. That guy sucks. You don't want that from JK. And we have no idea what he's like in the locker room and whether, he's extremely respected or not or whatever. We don't know. But we don't want to find out if he was moping,
100%. I also, Chuck, I think what's kind of unfortunate here too is, and I think this was with you about a month or so ago when I was talking about, what do I think's realistically going to happen with the JK situation? And I'm pretty sure I said either with you or on KMBR potentially, was the fact that I think they're going to sign him and trade him close to the deadline because you got more bang for your buck from a contract standpoint. The only issue is now that this situation has gotten so ugly, it's going to be challenging, I think, at that point in time to get good value for JK, regardless of the dollar signs that are attached to it. And equally, if you're paying JK 21, 23 million bucks, whatever it is, and he's not getting a ton of burn because it just doesn't work and the team is not winning games, then you're stuck there trying to offload an asset that people say, well, if you're not going to play him, why should I pay top dollar or give you a top prospect and give you a pick for someone that doesn't work with you guys when, you've been one of the best organizations in the NBA for the past decade? Why do I think he's going to come work here? Right.
It's a gamble either way. It's a gamble. There's no right or wrong answer until it reaches hindsight. Right.
Well, there is a right answer. It's take Monk into pick. That's the answer.
All right. That's the answer that Mike's given to you. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Mike, appreciate you for joining us. Until next time, my friend.
Until next time, Chuck.
Free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts and on YouTube. Peace.